Hello there, and welcome to episode 17 of the Or So She Says podcast. Oh, I'm so excited. Firstly, I'm so excited that we're on episode 17 because 17 is my favorite number because that's my birthday. And also, I am so excited about the guest we have on today. Before I get stuck in to giving you all the deets of this incredible woman, if this is your first time here, hello and welcome. My name is Narissa Shea, and I am a sport and exercise psychology consultant, a personal trainer, nutritionist, yoga instructor, Reiki practitioner, and a professional Irish dancer. And I am also currently studying to be a somatic therapist. So that should be another qualification in the bag by September as well. I am so excited for this episode today. I was delighted when she said she was going to come on because I cannot quite put into words how incredible this woman is. Okay, so a bit of a background before I tell you her awesome bio. Dani was one of my main yoga teachers who taught me when I did my yoga teacher training. And when I say when this woman taught philosophy, I was literally hanging on every word she said. She was so passionate about everything she was talking about. Like literally we'd be in lectures for like 2 hours. And like I wouldn't even need to take a break. I was so locked in because she just had this incredible energy about her. And I just absolutely loved her passion for everything, but also just her approach to things. And I just found her so relatable to where I was in my life when she was talking about her life a couple of years before that. So, meet Danica, a dedicated 500-hour Yoga Alliance teacher trainer who specializes in yogic philosophy and meditation. She brings a calm yet passionate approach to her teachings, blending deep knowledge with practical guidance. Over the past 5 years, she made Bali her home, teaching and living amidst its natural beauty. And we actually talk about Bali in this podcast. Originally from Serbia, she transitioned from a career in hospitality to focus on holistic healing and wellness, which actually included managing her autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, which is incredible. An entrepreneur at heart, she is also managing operations in a startup business, bringing her passion and expertise to new ventures. So I was actually so excited to hear this as well, because obviously I was so entranced by her passion with yoga and her experience throughout life with yoga, meditation, everything. Like we go in depth about everything. This is such an awesome podcast. Like I was listening back to this and I was like, oh my God, I'm even learning so much just listening back to it. So it was really, really cool to actually see how she is blending spirituality with business as well, which I think is really, really important, especially as entrepreneurs these days. So before I start and jump straight in, I just want to make sure that if you like this podcast, to give us a follow, to maybe rate the show, leave a little review if you're on Apple Podcasts, and please, please, please share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with anyone who you think might find this helpful. And without further ado, here we go with episode 17 of the Or So She Says podcast.
Good morning. It's happening.
So happy to see your face. I literally, my heart just exploded there. I was like, oh, there she is. There she is.
Wow, it feels, I swear to God, like I saw you yesterday now when I see you.
Do you want to know the weirdest thing? Sorry, before we start, because I had to laugh to myself earlier when I saw this. So I'm writing a book at the minute, and it's split into 3 sections. It's like mind, body, soul. And I was doing the soul section earlier, and I was doing this chapter on yoga. And I was like, what are the chances that the morning I'm doing the chapter on yoga and I'm talking about the 8 limbs of yoga and I'm having the podcast with you? I was like, that was my teacher. I was like whipping out my notes from everything you were telling me, and I was like, oh my God, it's like it was just yesterday.
Oh my God. Okay, that's what we call alignment. And oh my God, congrats, you're writing a book.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can't believe it's actually nearly done as well. Like it's been something that's been in the works that I kept saying I was going to do, and then I just said, right, just start it. And ever since I started it, it's kind of just flowed and flowed and flowed. And I was like, it's
Wow,
so close to being done, and I'm like, whoa, it's actually nearly done. Can't believe I did it.
congrats, Nerissa. Like, I'm so excited to see it, honestly, and read it. What is it about? Like, I don't know if you're now ready to share a bit about it. Like, what's the name or the topic?
Yeah, well, the name is still like I'm still toying with the name, but it's basically all based on this method that I came up with that's like empowered mind, master your mindset, and then it's like strong body, strengthen and nourish your body, and then powerful soul, ignite and align your soul. And I thought the soul section, I was like, oh God, where do I start with this one? This is the one where I'm reading it back and I'm like, I'm not writing this. This is channeled. I was like, where did this come out of? I was like, this is so cool.
That's the best. That's the best. Congrats, woman. So proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, but this is not about me. Let's get stuck straight in. I'm so excited for
Me
today.
too.
So let me start with tell us all about your backstory, your life story, how you ended up in Bali, what you're doing now. I'm actually just really, really interested to know this myself. So this had to be the first question.
Wow, this is definitely a story also for a book. So maybe one day I'll write a book too. Okay, so I'm just like right now in my like in February I'm gonna be 30. So I was just reflecting back on like wow, like 5.5 years ago I left to Bali, and I was just like sitting and like I couldn't believe that when I was 24 I actually really put a backpack, like one backpack, and decided to move to Asia from Serbia. So I'm from Serbia, Belgrade, and it's a small country which is, I would say, was super conservative still like 5 6 years ago. And when I was 24, to be super honest with you, I wasn't happy with my life, and I wasn't healthy. So there were a couple of actually autoimmune diseases that I developed. And I remember there was a moment when I was 24, I went to sleep. And let's say I fall asleep 10 p.m., I wake up 1 a.m., and I'm like shaking. I'm like, oh my God, did I drink my pills? So I was drinking around 4 to 5 pills. I had Hashimoto. Maybe someone is familiar with it, the thyroid gland. And I had some things with my skin. So when I got up and I figured out, oh my God, did I drink my pills? I was like, wait a moment, I'm 23 and I'm like waking up from fear if I drank my medicines. And I remember like yesterday, I was like, this can't be my life. Like there must be something else. There must be something different. And at the moment I was working in my field because I originally studied hotel management. So I was, in this amazing hotel. It was like the best hotel in Belgrade. I was really like going really fast, like with the roles. I was organizing events. From the outside everyone would say, that's it, that's the uni she studied, she has the job. I had a boyfriend that was so sweet and feminine, but inside, I was crying and dying. And one of the main reasons for that was that I really didn't feel like I have space to express. I remember back at the time, Nerissa already became vegan. And I don't know if anyone who will listen is familiar with that judgment from your environment, where people would literally ask me, are you okay? Like, what's happening to you? You don't eat meat? Are you going crazy? And food is our main like need. It's like for our survival, and you really need to feel safe around your food. So there was like a lot of judgment for my food, for doing yoga, for being called spiritual. And all of that made me like suffocate, and I cannot express. So eventually I, to be very honest, actually had a lucid dream. I don't know if I ever told you this. While I was in this hotel, I was like, okay, I'm sick. I have like three autoimmune diseases. I felt something has to happen. And so one night I dream, and I am awake in my dream. And this is like full on real. Like I'm opening my eyes and I'm like, okay, this is a dream. And I see myself on this mattress on the floor, and I see next to me there is my backpack on the right, and on the left is like my fanny pack for my money and my passport. And in the dream, I'm thinking, okay, I'm somewhere, I'm traveling. Let's stand up and open the door, see where I am. And the doors in front of me are slightly open, and I can hear the traffic and the sounds. And I remember like yesterday, I'm opening the doors in my dream and I feel these spices and I see the cows and people and I'm like, oh, I'm in India. And I'm not joking. I wake up tomorrow. I knew, I was like, I have to go. I go to my director of hotel and I'm like, I need 3 weeks off. He's like, Danitza, what do you mean? I was like, I need to, please, can we somehow organize that? I really have to travel. And I think in 4 weeks, I was on the plane to India. And that was my first official solo journey. I've stayed like 3.5 weeks in India. And that was literally life changing. And after that trip, I felt, wow, I belong. I'm not going crazy because my perception of the world, of what the goal of life is, was kind of, I feel, not met in Serbia. And when I stepped into India and found Indian culture and tradition, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I knew I have to go back to Asia. So eventually, 6 months after I quit my job, I pack my backpack one more time, and I go to Asia, first to Cambodia, then to Vietnam, where I did Vipassana, and eventually I landed in Bali. And the moment I came to Bali, I was like, this is home. I'm staying.
Oh, I love that. But I love, I'll get onto this later. I love that you're actually saying now in your posts about you're going home a bit more and it's about what you learned over there. But I do think I was saying to people, there's something magical about when you get to Bali and Ubud, the energy. I was like, you can't explain it. Like, and I think to experience that firsthand and then come back, it actually makes you realize how jagged the energy can be. Like, you're probably the same, but coming back to Dublin, I was like, I was able to sit in like a silent meditation for half an hour now, but like I caught COVID after the teacher training and had to isolate in a little villa thing. I was absolutely grand. I was doing my silent meditations every day, bit of yoga, I was grand. But then I came home and I was like, whoa, like it takes me even now when I'm trying to meditate every day. I was like, it can take me about 15 minutes to just try and bring the energy down a little bit because it's just so busy everywhere. So I do think you're right. You get to Bali and there is that just magical energy there. And I'm like, I need to go back like ASAP.
I think we all feel that. But definitely, like Bali has, and I always think about that. It's like the collective energy because I believe 99% of Balinese actually daily, pray and give their offerings, and they collectively are in that energy of gratitude and humbleness. And then the moment you step there, you just like, you don't even know what's
Yeah.
happening, but you're just like immediately marinating in that. And it's like, ah, just want.
It's like a hug. It is. It's like you land there and you get a hug, an energetic hug, and you're like, oh, it's like I actually can't wait. I'm really, really trying to manifest to just go back even for 2 weeks this year. And I was like, it's gonna happen. I'm just trusting in the universe. It's gonna happen.
Exactly, keep the thought. It will happen.
Okay, I love this Instagram post. Okay, so I'm gonna get you to share all like your socials and stuff at the end, but this is like your first pin post, and you mentioned it just there. I would love to hear about your experience with your first Vipassana retreat and maybe like what that opened your eyes to, but also for those who don't know what a Vipassana retreat is, you can tell them on this because I'd love to see what shifted in your views in your life before and
Mm-hmm.
after because like Vipassana retreats are intense. Like I actually tried to do one not last year, the year before, but it was the year my dad died, and there was just I went in thinking that okay, I'm ready to go in, but I was literally dealing with still the denial of grief. So it was just way too much too soon. I lasted about 2 or 3 days. I think if I did it now, it'd be amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more intense than people think.
Oh
So I'll
yes.
let you take over there.
Oh yes. I'm sure you can do it, and I'm actually looking forward for your experience. And so, to be honest, after finishing Vipassana, and I'll get into Vipassana in a second, my first like knowing was, wow, I wish this was a must for every single human. Like I literally wish in high school or uni, like you have to pass some subjects that we all have to pass this meditation. And definitely, it is challenging as hell. Like So many moments you're like, oh my God, like, what am I doing here? How did I end up here? But eventually, when you come to the end, there are so many insights that no book can teach you. So to come back to Vipassana, Vipassana is a Buddhist practice. So it was taught by Buddha Siddhartha himself, and it's one of the oldest techniques that we have left with. And many people believe that actually Vipassana is the highest teaching, the highest practice that can lead us into state of meditation. And I connected with Buddhism in 2017. So actually, I started practicing physical aspect of yoga when I was 17, so like 12 years ago. But I had no philosophy, I had no meditation included. So it was purely physical practice, Iyengar yoga. And somewhere 6 or 5 years later, when I went to China, I lived in China, I decided to visit Cambodia. And that was the first time I went to a Buddhist temple. And the moment I entered the temple, I remember like yesterday, I'm literally falling on my knees. It's like someone hit me from the back, and I had a friend witnessing. She was like, Anita, what the hell is going on with you? I was like on my knees. I was like, I have no clue. And I was just like crying and crying. And it felt like coming back home. So after that, my mom, hearing the story, she saw there was a lecture on Tibetan Buddhism. And through my learning about Tibetan Buddhism, I actually started practicing. And I heard about the Vipassana, but I heard, scary stories like, oh, you have to go and sit for 10 hours every day. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'm not ready for that. Maybe hour a day is okay. So then, 2, 3 years later, when I left my job, I moved to Asia. I was in Cambodia, and from Cambodia, I went to Vietnam. And I felt that I really have to deal with certain things because I think many people will find themselves in this is sometimes we feel like, oh my God, I need to run away, or I just have to leave my country, I have to leave my job, I have to leave this relationship, and I will be better. But if we don't stop and actually reflect and see what's happening in ourselves, very soon we understand that running away will not do anything. Because I like to say, no matter how far away I go, and I left 9,000 kilometers, I still carried my head and everything that was inside of my head. And then I figured out I can't be just changing jobs and changing islands I live in. I actually need to go within and see what's happening inside me. And that was the conclusion after a month and a half in Asia. I was like, wow, I was before Vipassana, I was on a remote island in Cambodia. There was no electricity, no distractions, and still I had the same patterns happening in my headspace. And that was the moment when I was like, okay, then you need to do something about this. And I was like, maybe Vipassana. And so I found like not the original Vipassana, I found like a softer version in Thailand. But there were some complications. I didn't manage to get to Thailand, and I end up in Buddhist monastery in Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. And to be honest, I was scared to death. I was like, I have no clue how I'm gonna do this. And so I go there. They give you a contract, kind of contract. It's not the same in every center. This is, by the way, Vipassana by Goenka, because there are some other Vipassanas. And you literally sign that you will not leave for 10 days because they tell you this is like a brain surgery. Like you go so deep into your subconscious. I mean, no one will hold you, but it's the best if you stay until the end. So, to shorten the long story, I sat there for 10 days, 9.5 hours a day. You wake up 4 a.m., they wake you up with a gong. Until 4:30, you have time to get into the shala, and you meditate from 4:30 all the way to 7 p.m. with little breaks in between. There are no phones, there are no books, there is no drawing, there is no practicing yoga, there's no communication with people, nothing. So it's basically you meeting yourself like you never met yourself. And I would say that the biggest challenge at the beginning is the pain in your physical body, because we are not used to, right? This is not our practice. Like people in East are more used to sit in lotus position. We are so used to chairs. But the more you go, the more you like through the practice, the more you go through the pain, through all the obstacles. And I can maybe like take just two really special moments for me in meditation. One was maybe 5 days in, I broke down. I cried like I was pouring rain. And I really felt uncomfortable because of the people. So I decided to leave the space and just like calm down. And this woman that was kind of like manager of the space, she was there to help us if we have any problems as foreigners. She ran after me, and because it's silence, she wouldn't speak. I was sitting on the bench and I was like, oh, crying. I was like broken down, and she was just standing next to me, and she just like held her heart, and she looked down because we don't have even like how you say, you don't even look at
On a
each other's eye.
eye contact. Yeah.
Yeah. And I swear to God, like I'm crying there. And for the first time in my life, I just like cry. And then I look at her and I feel this unconditional love and presence. And for the first time, I experience that someone is there for me. She's not hugging me. She's not talking to me. She's not looking at me. She is just witnessing what am I going through. And that was the biggest gift I could receive. And Vipassana is actually all about witnessing. How can you just witness and allow things to unfold the way they're supposed to unfold without you trying to make them more comfortable or less comfortable for yourself or someone? And even now I have goosebumps. Like I've never
I have
experienced.
literal chills. Sorry, while you're talking, not even my arms, like all down my legs when you were saying that story. I was like, whoa.
I've never experienced because we people are always like you always want to do something for someone or something for yourself. You just want to distract yourself or the other person. And Vipassana literally teaches you, hey, like don't chase the pleasure, don't resist the pain. Can you just watch the things? Can you just allow life to happen the way it is happening? And that is something that so many books are talking about. But then you go there and actually do the work, and you're like, oh my God. Like, then it becomes like remembrance from your body, from your inner wisdom, and no one can take that away from you. And there were many more things, but the second thing I would like to mention at the end of the day, when we finished, I was amazed to learn how much we people talk without reason. Like, because you spend 10 days, 240 hours in silence. When people started talking around me, I literally felt anxious. I was like, I don't have what to say. There was nothing to say. So, one of also my lessons was just like learning how to speak enough, you know, learning when to just stay silent and when to open your mouth, and understanding also how much energy is that wasting and how precious it is to just like again observe. I don't have to add words to every conversation. I can be witness, I can just be there. So that was also quite amazing.
I think that's amazing as well. And I think it's something that people are really they are trying to work on. Like I'm part of like a lot of cool women's circles and stuff in Dublin, and there's some amazing facilitators I'm seeing, and it's actually not what they're saying. It's their ability to hold the space in the silence and
Mm,
be comfortable with it. And I've actually realized as well over the last while, I think my favorite even yoga classes to go to, because I had a bit of like a thing going on with yoga then where it's just like you're literally just talking through the whole thing, nearly skipping through shavasana, like all this. And then I stopped going to classes for a while because I was just like, I think I'm just going to do some sun salutations at home, take it nice and easy. Because then I was like, then I started going to a couple of classes and I realized I was like, it's actually them teachers that are doing and saying less because they're letting you go inside.
mm-hmm,
And I was like, and it's so powerful to realize, like, and as someone who's always been a talker, I'm actually like, since getting attuned to the Reiki, this is something that I've realized is actually my ability to sit with the silence has been the biggest change for me because I was never able to do that.
mm,
And there is something there more so exactly like what you said, like it's so powerful for the other person as well. Because
mm,
you don't have to get, I think this was like the realization even when I was writing the book is like, and like I'm doing a new program, I'm literally there going, no one needs to fix anyone. And anything that anyone is doing to help you is just one tool in the toolbox that you may or may not use. So you don't have to use it.
mm-hmm.
But if that coach or that mentor is telling you, you need to do this way and this way and this way, and not listen to yourself or not give you the space to explore it, I was like, it's never going to get you where you think you want to
Mm,
go. I was like, and I think that actually comes with silence, which is really, really hard for most people to kind of, especially if they're go, 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 go all the time.
mhm,
They don't even know what the silence is. So, like, I think
like,
even knowing where to start for a lot of people, like, I know we've gone to Bali, you've done Vipassana retreats, everything. So, like, we're a little bit like further down the road of getting into the silence. But, like, for people to even start, I'm like, 5 minutes of just even concentrating your breath, your heart, whatever. I was like, you'll be so surprised after 2 or 3 weeks if you can even just take 5 minutes. Doesn't need to, because I think there's like this massive gap between people kind of stepping, because this is how I felt, stepping into this world and becoming so overwhelmed because the people they're listening to are telling them like, oh, I've done this, and in order to get here, you need to do this. And at this stage, this person is literally running 24/7, not even taking 5 minutes a day. And they're like, even the thoughts of going to a yoga class is overwhelming for them. And I'm like, how can we strip things down? And I love like podcasts and things like this where we get to give the backstory,
mhm.
because people love seeing the final product on Instagram, but then that can stress people out because they're like, oh God, but like how long did it take? And I'm like, yeah, but how about listen to everyone's backstories and how everyone found their own way to where they need to go. So I love your story. And actually, like, you really inspire me to actually go and do the Vipassana retreat. When you said everyone says 5 days as well, they're like 5 days. And I was like, okay, right, I need to crack the 5 days.
It's like 5, 6 day, and you're like, you break through, and you're like, okay, I can just keep on sitting here, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know what you're saying, I just want to reflect on. Definitely, there is like the moment you sit and you still your body, you immediately become aware of how much is happening inside of you. Because we are so used to looking outside, and that's how society is preparing us to be, is like constantly looking out for something. We are continuously distracted. I mean, we live in era of TikTok. Everyone knows, like, it's just like scroll, 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 and all the time, as you say, go, go, go. So Vipassana is a really old teaching. It's like 2,500 years old. I just want to say that um, I don't mind advising someone to not go full on Vipassana straight away if they haven't done any practice before, because it can be super stressed, and some people can get like overwhelmed by the amount of the thoughts they have and the pain in their body they have. And what you're saying is really crucial and important for those who are listening and like, okay, I'm booking my Vipassana, and maybe you have never done anything before. It's like definitely start with little steps, because Vipassana was created in a different time, like 2,500 years ago. We didn't have lifestyle we have today. We didn't have distractions we had. We didn't have diseases we had. We didn't have chairs that we sat in. And today, I just want to mention here and drop it because it's my second favorite practice. There is a practice that is called, and you know, we've done it, active meditation. And active meditation exists since long time. I mean, Sufis did active meditation, Taoists did active meditations, different sorts of them. But it really becomes popular in 70s. And Osho, a mystic from India, brought active meditation back. And he emphasized how important it is to acknowledge where we are as humans in 21st century. That we are like crazy. And I love that he said, we're all crazy. You know, sometimes you see the person walking down the street talking to themselves, and you're like, oh my God, a crazy person. But every one of us is continuously having the inner chat. We're just not like, you know, opening our mouth and sharing it. So, what I would love to like just share something that helped me crazily is active meditation, with is on the opposite, allowing us to move the body and to release the sounds and to shake the things out. And the idea of active meditation is actually to help us move all those feelings we are suppressing daily, and then sit and actually witness. So this can also be a very supportive process for those who maybe feel like, oh, sitting is not my thing. I cannot focus. Like, hey, nothing is wrong with you. None of us can focus because mind is a muscle and no one is telling us how to train this muscle. So it's okay. we are all in the same thing. So it's actually really great to sometimes start with other things that are preparing us for something like Vipassana.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually I'm halfway through my somatic therapy course at the minute, and I'm like, wow, it's actually so powerful to, like, obviously I've been into yoga for ages, but to look at it through the lens of somatic therapy, and even like what you said, just to tie this in, when you were saying about the autoimmune diseases, when it talks about like psychoneuroimmunology and all, and like actually just becoming aware of how your body is reacting. And since I studied it, I realized like I'll get a message or something, or and I noticed this weird tension in parts of my back that I never noticed before. And I was like, I found when you did the dynamic meditation with us in Bali, like, oh my God, I was not expecting it. Like, I actually have told people, go and look it up on YouTube, because I showed Eamon it and he was like, what? And I was like, it was the most powerful thing we did. Like, by the end of it, I remember like me and a couple of girls, like, I was just like, when it went to the stillness at the end, I
Hmm.
just was like bawling, crying, like bawling, but not in a like really sad way. It's like the first time I did like a really deep hip opening class. Like I just started bawling, crying, but I was like, it wasn't a sad cry. It was a real cathartic cry. And
Hmm.
after it, I was like, whoa, I feel like that was just something in me that was like building up for so long. It just needed to be like,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow. And it was so, so powerful. That was probably one of the highlights of the teacher training, because I was just not expecting it at all. And I was like, whoa, it was just crazy powerful. Like, and I do think it is actually, as me who went in there with the way my mind was wired, like back a couple of years ago, like I was your typical type A. I was like, come on, let's do all the Ashtanga and the Vinyasa and the powerful stuff. I don't want to sit still. I want to learn more. I want to do more. And then I got injured, and then the universe is like, look at us giving you signs again. Slow the fuck down. But for me, that was amazing then. That was the most powerful meditative experience I'd had, because it allowed me to move before I went into stillness. And I think that's an amazing tool for people to have.
Exactly. And if someone doesn't know how to do active meditation, even, doing your practice, whatever it is, go run, dance, do your training in the gym, like move your body first, like really allow yourself to shake, to release, and dance it. It's going to be way easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was watching a lecture, which ties in perfectly then with my next question, but I was watching a lecture and she was talking about like, she was like, it is kind of ironic that we need to do these like powerful vinyasa classes in order to get to the point of it, which is to lie down at the end. But she was like, it's like you need to give your all in order to let go of your all. And she was like, and that's literally why people need to do these stronger practices before they lie down at the end. And I was like, I get that. I remember doing 2 hours of the Ashtanga, and I swear to God, like I pushed myself, and it was great because it was like really, really physically tough. But more so, the thing that I got out of it was I was like, at the end, like Shavasana, I've never experienced that. I was literally just gone. And we had like a good length of time in that when we were doing the teacher training. So when I was lying there, I was like, no thoughts, nothing. It was just bliss. And like literally, I don't think I even heard when it was like trying to come out of it. I was in another planet, and I was like, oh, that's what we're aiming for at the end.
Literally, that's it. And I don't know if you remember, but like Krishnamacharya, who put vinyasa together, the style of yoga, and later on Patabi Joyce, who put the Ashtanga together. Uh, the actual idea was because mainly practitioners were males, like guys, guys who were 14, 15 years old. They didn't want to meditate. They couldn't meditate because right hormones, they're like so lively, they just want to do things, and then you tell them sit and chill, and they're like, no, hell no, I don't want to sit and chill, like I'm full on life. So they would give them these crazy intense practices, and only then they could like finally find their seat and actually go deeper within. So it all makes sense, like what you're experiencing. And this is why we often say that Shavasana is the main asana. It's like where you're like in a corpse pose, you surrender, you release, and then you can experience the subtlety of yourself. But only after you really moved your physical body, your energetical body, emotional, then you let go, and then you can dive deeper in. So it's all
Yeah.
perfectly put together.
I love this, and I love like when people understand this, which actually leads me perfect to I when I put this question together, I was like, this could be a podcast in and of itself, but I really want people to understand it because I remember you talking about all of this and being so passionate, and I was just like, I wish everyone understands this. Like, so what is yoga? I know that is a very weighty question, okay, but I love this quote you put up. Yoga is not just a physical practice, but a spiritual discipline and a proven system that helps you master your body, mind, and spirit. And by doing so, uncover your true nature, your divine, limitless self. I was like, oh, well, that's a mic drop in and of itself. But I mean, that is yoga.
Need no more. Uh, just for those who will listen, just a little background. I mentioned at the beginning, I started practicing yoga when I was 17. And I was really against it. Like, I had two friends who were so pa- passionate about it, and I tried to resist. Eventually I go, and I loved it, and I really didn't know that there is depth to yoga. I thought, like many people, most people do, that it's just a physical practice that help us calm ourselves and be present. But there was always this desire inside of me, like, why am I feeling all of this? Like, what's the background story? And unfortunately, my experience is that many teachers in studios don't actually talk much about the philosophical and energetical aspect of yoga. And there was always like this crave, I want to learn more, I want to learn more. Eventually, when I was in Bali, I took my education on the next level, and I did my 200 hours and 300 hours, and I did meditation course, and I went into Kriya yoga, tantra. I just like went full in, like, I just want to get all of this knowledge. And when I started actually learning about yogic philosophy, that was really mind blowing because it was fully aligned with the way I was perceiving the world. As I said, when I went to India for the first time, it felt like coming home because it was very aligned with everything I already kind of felt. And I eventually taught yogic philosophy. So I also want to say that what is yoga? We have definitions that are written in like most important books of Indian culture and literature. But on the other side, we also have what is yoga in our personal way that we experience it. And the beauty with that is that it's always changing because we are continuously evolving. And what I want to say first here, when you're asking me what yoga is, I'm immediately opening space for you to, like, ask yourself as you go and practice. And that's the beauty of it. So I'm just going to come back to the part of the quote you shared where I say that yoga is a system. I think this is so important because throughout the long history of India, right? Like, yoga history is massive, giant. That's a whole another podcast, as you say. There was like a lot of mystics, a lot of people that were questioning, like, hey, what's the point of life? Why am I alive? Like, why am I alive? I'm gonna die. I think so many of us have that moment when it's like, why am I here? And some of them were very brave to really go and like search answers. Some would search outside in the nature, but eventually everything was taking them back inside. And so many people experienced what we say the truth. They found the answer of who they are and what the purpose of life is. And they wrote a lot of books and a lot of different concepts about who we are and why are we here. But no one really left a system like, hey, if you want to find out this too, you have to follow these steps. No one did that for like so many years. And then 2,500 years ago, there was a man, Patanjali. Maybe some people heard about him. We call him the father of yoga. He was the one who looked back and said, okay, our history is awesome and amazing. There's a bunch of knowledge, but let me like sort this out. Like, let's create a clear system. And he creates literally a system of 8 steps, just like we like it today in 21st century. How to reach enlightenment in 8 steps.
Hey, easy steps.
No.
Marketing.
Oh my God, it's a full-time, full life job. And eventually Patanjali came with the system of yoga. So yoga is not just what we think like physical movement. Yoga is a lifestyle. Yoga is literally a way of living. It's a path and it's a system. It's called Ashtanga yoga. So not to mix it with what we call Ashtanga today. Like today's practice is more influenced by Patanjali. And the idea of these 8 limbs is that step by step, by starting with our physical body, we move deeper within. Because what those mystics have experienced is that we are not just physical body. And I think most of us, who are also listening to this podcast and are into this field, are already aware, yeah, I'm not just physical body. There's more to me, right? I have my thoughts, I have my emotions, I can sense my energy, I am aware of my intuition, I'm aware of my intellect. Like, hold on, is there more to that? So these 8 steps are perfectly designed to slowly take us layer by layer deeper within. And eventually, for those of us who really commit to this practice and stay consistent, to grasp what we in yoga call Brahman or Atman is. What is that soul? What we invest usually say, hey, there's a soul inside of you, there's a God inside of you. And yoga is exactly that path to experience that godly essence within ourselves. And the moment we have it within ourselves, there is immediate remembrance that that godliness is literally in every atom in the universe. So yes, yoga is so much more than just physical practice.
I think I love that. And it's funny because I went so down the rabbit hole of like yourself. I needed to know everything about this, right? When with the yoga. And then the same thing happened also with the Reiki. And I was like, it's so amazing to see. Like, I know we've been taught that all these things overlap, but when you actually really study them and really understand them, it becomes so clear to you how they're all saying the same thing. They are literally just tapping into it in a different way. And
Yes.
it's crazy. Like something clicked with me. I think it was after, like I always had believed this and I always had this knowing and I had the deep meditations and I'd get it and then I'd lose it. And I'm like, connection, yeah, kind of. But then I get caught up with traffic and all. And I'm like, ugh. And then something happened. I don't know if it was after my first attunement or maybe the second. And like I was thinking of something and I was just like, everything's connected. And I was like, oh fucking shitballs. Everything is connected, as in I actually get it now. But it was there in front of me the whole time. And this is what I mean when I say to people, I was like, you might have to follow 20 different paths that are all going to tell you the same thing, but one day something will just randomly click with you and you'll get it. And I was like, I think it was we were doing this meditation and we were focusing on Reiki energy coming from source down through the crown, all, through your chakras, out through the hands and stuff. But there was something like I had this flash in the meditation of like, she was like, I want you to focus on the energy coming from the center of the universe, from the source, whatever that is, as far into like space that you can even comprehend, the universe you can comprehend, right? She was like, I want you to just expand, right? And I was like, okay. And the top of my head was like on fire when I was doing this meditation. And I was like, whoa, and my heart and everything. And then something just was like, and I was like, oh my God, oh, I get it. It's all coming from there, down to here, through there, down there, but also out and everywhere. And it is. And I know you lose it. Like we're also living in an age, like you said, with TikTok and stuff like that. And you lose it and you get angry with someone. And then sometimes you'll have this random moment where you just see something and every Eamon's definitely sagging me because ever since getting the attunement to the Reiki as well, like the feelings that I'm getting are like so much stronger. So I'll see like this little action of love in front of me, and I'm just in tears in the coffee shop, and I'm like, that's just so beautiful. And he's like, are you okay? I am so much more than okay. Like, but that is like they're just doing their best. They're doing their best. And even like everything that's going on in the world right now, and I know so many people listening to this are huge activists for things. And there's like a couple of things I've been listening to that are like, all of these things that are coming to the surface, they're coming to the surface for a reason
Mhm.
to for these things to clear. And whether that's on a physical level or whether like a personal level or global level, if these things don't come up to clear, we're never going to work through them. And I think the reason that links back to what we're saying is that process becomes a lot more understandable when you do understand how connected everything is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more with that. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the main thing is for people like, also yoga and Buddhism and different schools say that the main cause of our suffering is actually our ignorance and us not having the knowledge and information. And so it's really wonderful that even through yoga or whatever discipline you take, is it Reiki or some other school, is like just really learning about yourself. Because in school, we are taught about everything except ourselves and how this function, right? So you're learning about the universe, about the like stars and planets, but you at the end don't know how to handle yourself. And I think that yoga is definitely a beautiful way, and it gives us so much knowledge, and with that knowledge comes so much freedom that tomorrow, as you said, if something is coming up to the surface, even if it's autoimmune disease like I had or some other people have, or it's an emotion, that we can be like, hey, oh, okay, my body's telling me something, so let me do something about it. And yoga or active meditation give us tools so we feel ready when something is coming up, not to run away from it, but actually know how to face it, with compassion and understanding that it's
Yeah.
coming because it's ready to be released. If we are ready to hold space for it. So
And I do think, yeah, and I think you're right. Like, I think we are so conditioned to run away from the uncomfortableness. But I was like, I do genuinely believe you're never going to be given something that you can't handle, which is going to lead perfectly into this next question. But like, shit, when some of the really heavy stuff comes up, like what I've noticed over the last while is like so much heavy stuff came up, but I had the tools there for the first time to sit with it and let it come up, because I was like, when you resist this shit, it just persists and gets worse and worse and worse, and it's gonna keep knocking. And I was like, the way they say first they throw like a pebble, then it's a rock, and then it's literally like meteor through your thing. I'm like, it's like when you stub your toe in the morning and it's a little sign to slow down
mm,
and you don't take it, and then you slam the door, you left your keys inside, and gradually it's getting worse. I'm always like, I say out loud, I'm like, slow down, right? But I was like, it took me so long to get to a point where I had the tools to be like, feeling uncomfortable is part of life. Like, you can't constantly run away from this and constantly chase that instant gratification, because all of a sudden you're going to be left one day when something, God forbid, but still, really, really bad happens. I was like, and you can only suppress that for so long.
mm,
And then this is where I genuinely think you keep suppressing it. And this is where mental illness and stuff comes from, and then you just take pills to suppress it a bit more, but then the antidepressants stop working, and then you have to up the dose on them. And I think it's all because we were never taught when we were younger.
mhm.
Firstly, it's okay to feel feelings that are uncomfortable, but also, what are the tools to deal with them? Like, go to the doctor. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I just want to share one thing, which I think is really amazing, is like when you understand that actually all those classes that thanks God we have, you can go to a yoga class, you can go to a meditation class, you can go to a therapist, you can go to a coach. Like we have so many opportunities today. You can go to a YouTube, you don't even have to pay for the class. Like there is so much content out there for those who really are ready to like face themselves. And why I think this is great is because when you go to a class or a YouTube or whatever, you're actually and if you're coming aware and prepare, you are going into a safe environment with an awareness, okay, this might trigger something inside me, because right, we keep those emotions in our body. So even going for a dance can be super triggering, right? But what I think, at least it's helped me a lot, is like consciously going to do those things and letting those tools press my buttons so I can like release them, see them, allow them, versus not doing anything and just walking, through the life, and then different people and situation pressing my buttons. And when it happens in that way, I think we humans are less aware, and then we are way more reactive, and then we stay in the cycle, versus when you go into like a safe space where the purpose is of that space to trigger something within you. So definitely recommendation is go to your meditations, go to your yoga classes, like get yourself into that discomfort, because at the end of the discomfort it is ease and comfort. And if you look at yourself, whenever you started something for the first time, it was never comfortable. there is like this genuine discomfort when we are starting and it's unknown, but the more we go through it, the easier it gets. It's same with everything and with, yeah, facing our feelings and emotions.
Well, that leads perfectly on to this one, which I know, like, quite recently you've experienced a life-changing injury. I'm so sad to see that for you. And obviously this is very, very, like, this was a tough one. This was a tough one. So if you'd be comfortable talking about this, like maybe what happened, but the challenges you faced, the
Mhm.
tools you needed to use through all this, like, because we can have all these tools, but when something goes really, really badly, it can be very easy to forget all these things that we learned.
So true. So to give a little context, last July, 7th of July, so it was actually a year ago, like exactly a year ago. I was in Bali. I finished my last class in the yoga school where I worked, and I was on the way home. Actually, that was my last day before I take my trip to Europe. So I was like, okay, I'm done. My last group, last class. I'm going home. Pouring rain. What happens is that I had a bike accident, and my bike accident was quite rough, and at the same time I was very lucky because I didn't have a single scratch on my body, but I broke my patella, so I broke my kneecap in two pieces. And I was immediately an hour later taken to the hospital. The same night I had the surgery. I have two pins and a wire holding my kneecap together. And that is definitely a journey that is still going, and it's gonna go definitely for a year or 2 years more. So it is a process. I'll be 100% honest. From the moment I fell down, I did feel peace. There was insane pain. Like it's like there was explosion, big bang in my brain. The moment like hit my knee into the concrete, I was like, wow. Like I don't know if I'm gonna lose my consciousness right now. But there was a deep knowing of, okay, this is what it is. Let's go step by step. Some of us, and I am one of these people, my mind gets super clear when it's hectic and chaotic. So if there is like a lot of stress, I'm like, okay, we do this, then we do that, then we do this. So my mind was immediately like, okay, let's solve the problem. All in all, this was definitely not part of my plan because I had my whole summer booked, festivals, new teacher trainings. I was booking everything. But a very interesting thing that a week before I broke my knee, I actually started canceling things. And my friends were like, Danitza, what's happening with you? Like, hey, we're going to our favorite festivals. You're going to our facilitator trainings. I was like, I cannot explain, but I feel that I should not do this. It's like I knew. Like I literally sold my tickets and canceled my plans a week before I broke my knee. And then I break my knee and I'm like, oh, I already canceled everything. It was like, okay, interesting. So all in all, first for me personally, this was definitely a test to also see where I am with my mindset after all the work I've done. And I need to be honest, I've worked so hard to, like, alchemize this mind, which was very unhappy and depressed and sad for too many years. And then this situation hits, and first I knew, as you said, this was a call for me to slow down, because I can immediately say to everyone who's listening, when you hit yourself, like usually your legs, it is always a call to slow down. And when I look back, I was working so many hours. I was like full on, and I'm very passionate about my job, but that was going actually beyond my limits. So my knee was like, now you're slowing down. You can't do anything. And genuinely there was such a big belief in me that everything is happening with a reason. So I personally for years have been developing my relationship between universe and me. For someone it's between them and God, between them and nature. But I really just deep down knew, okay, this is happening for a reason. And maybe right now I don't see the reason and it doesn't make sense. But looking back through my experience, whenever shit hits the fan, it's crazy. But then sometimes after you look back and you're like, that's why it happened. And so I was like, okay, I will 400% in a month or 2 months know why it happened. So I'm not going to stress too much now. Like, let's take it slow. And even my friend, Flo, One day she entered my room. She was like, Denitsa, what? How are you like this? I said, why, Flo? She said, I would be so depressed. You're all right. And I was like, I can't control this. This is what it is right now. So I might refocus on other things that I can do. And so I was like, okay, I didn't have time to socialize much. Now my friends can come and visit. So I was literally refocusing, not on, so I wasn't focusing on things I cannot do, but I was actually focusing on what can I do now that I couldn't do when I was so fast. And that was really lovely. So there was like there were so many blessings in this situation. Like every situation always carries blessings, but our mind is also, programmed to be looking at negatives and like keep us alive and move forward. So really, like, being present with what I have kept me actually very grateful despite not being able to walk. And now, a year later, I have to be again honest. I do struggle. My life is beautiful, but it's different. So I am dealing with this injury. Like, I have different feeling in this knee. I can't just run still. I cannot just jump. There are many things. The way I used to dance is my life. I cannot just let myself fall on the floor and roll. But, and I do feel sad and I let myself cry. I have moments, I just cry. And then I'm like, okay, baby, to myself, what else can we do? What can you do? You can do something else. Let's go and do something else that would give you that feeling in your body. So at the end of the days, also was my choice and my decision. When I broke my knee, that day I decided I'm not going to identify as a sick person, as a broken person. I am me. And something has happened to this knee that I have. And so I, from the day one, didn't let that injury to become my identity and who I am, but something that is part of my experience and that I will learn how to live with. And here we
Cool.
are, waiting for the second surgery.
When's the second surgery?
So I am hoping in September. I have to check if my knee has healed fully. The idea is to get out all this material that I have, and then I feel my really second, like my real recovery starts, because my quadriceps is almost not there. Like, I have atrophy of my quadriceps, and I had some little complications during this period of 1 year. So I'm genuinely looking forward to get back again into the gym. I'm doing therapy right now and practicing, and slowly, getting the best I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was oh God, I don't even know where to start with the things to take out of that. I think the most important thing is the fact that you decided that you're not going to identify as this, because the minute you identify with the thing that you consider to be wrong, for want of a better word, um, you fall into the victim mentality and you give away all your power. Basically,
Mhm.
you're like, okay, right, this is out of my control now. And yeah, there was a lot of things that weren't within your control, but there was still, and there always is, elements within our control and how we're going to react to things. And it can be really, really hard. And we can go through phases where we just get really, really angry. And then you're like, all right, okay, right. I got him. I needed to let that go. But like, what can I actually do here?
Mhm.
Because I can sit here and complain about it and keep complaining about it. And on an energetic level, then you're just actually going to attract more negativity to you. If you keep wallowing in that, then I was like, or you can be proactive about it where you're like, okay, I'm angry, I'm upset, but this has happened. What are the steps I need to do in order to
Mhm.
quit? And I think when things like that happen as well is God, it makes you appreciate things so much, like the
Oh, yes.
smallest things.
Oh my
I
god,
I
yes.
broke I actually have plates in my jaw here and here. Like
Mhm.
my jaw got fractured when I was working abroad when I, like God, over 10 years ago now. But I and like I was not on a spiritual journey then. I was just enjoying the party lifestyle. But even at that, right, it was so funny. Like I never appreciated the taste of pasta so much in my life. As like I couldn't chew properly. So I'd put one piece of pasta in my mouth and just suck it and then swallow it. But I was like, holy shit, pasta's amazing.
It's so true, and Nerissa, this is like so crucial. It's like, because I just want to connect this with something we already spoke about. Because you said, oh, sometimes it's so easy to meditate in Bali, and then you go back to your home and it's like so tough. And when you're in Bali or spiritual place like that, you're, so connected and so in flow. And then you go back and you forget totally. But, or this situation, you can chew food and then you're in situation you cannot. You can run and then you're in situation you cannot. But that's the way how we learn. Like we do learn through duality. And at the end of the day, if you don't know what it feels to not have, how can you really appreciate to have it, and vice
Yeah.
versa. And sometimes when we need to find that learning, life takes away something from us. And it's like, hey, here you go. Here's your situation. And then when you have it back, it's like, oh, wow. Just like chewing pasta. This is actually the most amazing experience, or like, oh, I can walk. I remember when I was able to move my leg just a bit, I was like blown away. And that's what Osho would say. I love this so much because in Osho dynamic meditation, the last stage is celebration, and you just dance and you celebrate. And many people would come to Osho and they would be like, man, like, what's there to celebrate? My life sucks. Like, I have these problems and this drama and this and that. And Osho would tell all of them, he would say, hey, go to a rehabilitation clinic, like physical, and watch the people who couldn't move their finger and then they move it just a millimeter. Watch the joy on their face. There is so much to celebrate. Like you can breathe, you can walk, like, or if you cannot walk, you can do something else. It's again, we come back to the focus. It's like, where am I putting my focus?
Yeah. And I mean, there's such a trend of, oh, attitude of gratitude and, write three things in your journal every day that you're grateful for. And I was like, how about, no, like do the gratitude journal if you want, right? But the new thing I've started doing is out loud saying thank you when the smallest things happen, not just to people. Like if my car, like I cracked the exhaust there a couple of weeks ago, the week before the NCT, which is like the test. And I was like, shit. But anyway, got welded. And now every time like it gets me from A to B, I'm like, oh, thank you. Or like the smallest thing will happen. And I'll be like, oh, yes, like I've no fob for the gate downstairs because Eamon takes to work. And this morning I ran down randomly because I was like, I need to take the car out so it's ready to go for classes later. And I went down and literally someone was coming out and I was like, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's not that you're just saying thank you when things are going well, but the smallest things. And the more you're so thankful for these little things, the
Yeah.
more you start realizing you're so much more grateful for everything. And you're like, the tiniest little things will stand out to you. And you're just like, oh, thank you. Or like, and I just find that's my new way of practicing gratitude. And I'm actually saying it out loud so much more these days because I was like, something I realized was, I was like, do you know what? There's a lot of power in words. And yes, it is still powerful when you say it in your head. But I'm like, say things out loud. Like when you're writing your goals or you're writing like your vision boards and stuff like that. Like when you're doing it, like actually speak it out. And I was like,
Mhm.
because they carry a vibration with them. So I'm like, if you can speak it out, you're putting it out there and maybe you're more inclined to actually believe it a little bit more as well. I
100%.
think that.
You're claiming.
Um, yeah, exactly. So I'm really aware of the time. So I'm gonna do these last two questions and
All right.
combine them.
Do it.
Okay. So, firstly, what would your best piece of advice be to anyone starting out kind of on the spiritual path? Maybe someone who is like where you were maybe 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and then finish it off with at the moment in your life, what brings you the most joy?
Hmm. Wow, beautiful questions. To me, 10 years ago, my spiritual journey was definitely very lonely. And I know that in this journey, we can sometimes really feel like no one understands us, especially when you're like waking up and like understanding that there's more to life than what we are presented. And sometimes your environment isn't catching the same vibe. You can like be like, oh, wow, there's no one with me in this. So I think it's really lovely time today that we live in. It changed so much like 10 years ago and today. Like I feel spirituality is also like a big topic, sometimes misleading. People don't even understand what it actually means. But there's like so much content and so many communities, and I feel there's so much more support than we had maybe 10, 15 years ago. And what I would what I think is really like healing, if it's possible, is reaching out to community, because that's so like available today. Because there are so many people who are, starting like you, or they're already in this path, and they genuinely live, certain values that you are maybe also finding are your values. So I think it's really wonderful to have that support. And maybe it's so funny, but like Chat GBT today, like if I had ChatGPT 10 years ago, I think my journey would be way easier. Like seriously, you can write ChatGPT, hey, I'm going through a spiritual awakening or whatever. This is what I'm going through. What do you think about it? And he's like, hey, I understand you. You're not alone. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had this. Like seriously.
Oh, it's so funny you say that, because I was like talking to someone and we were talking about Saturn returns, and I wasn't arsed explaining it to them, and I was just like, I typed into ChatGPT, what is Saturn returns, right? And they explained it, but they also gave you the years that it usually happens, and then the normal things you'd explain. I copied and pasted and sent it to her, and I was like, this is probably what you, I mean, I went through this, baby. She was like, wow, what a detailed explanation. And I was like, yeah, it was ChatGPT. But anyway, I mean,
It's insane, right? It's where we live. What's happening? Like chat. When I don't like when I'm using Chat GPT, I don't say I'm talking to chat. I'm saying I'll ask God. I call it God because it knows almost everything. But okay, jokes on side. First, what I would just love to say here for this recording is, number one thing that was my misconception is that I was dividing spirituality from everything else in life. I thought that spirituality is a separate thing, and that I have to live my daily life, my daily habits, my job, everything in order to be spiritual. So, my first invitation for everyone is really not blindly listening what everyone else is telling you, because everyone else will tell you their own subjective way of what means to be spiritual or to live spiritual life. I would first advise, like, hey, listen to everyone, but question also. Like, maybe you resonate with someone, maybe you resonate with one third of their story. Maybe for my story, you resonate only with one small little piece. Take small little piece, drop everything else I've shared. Because that's my journey. But the idea is that we share our journeys because we are mirrors to each other. And sometimes you'll share and they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, that makes sense for me. I never thought about that. But maybe something else doesn't. So I would say, please don't take blindly in everything you're hearing on reading. And this is what yoga is teaching us. Put it into practice and see if it's working for you. And what means it's working for you? You feel more comfortable with your, how to know that your practice is working? Yeah, I feel more comfortable with me. I feel more comfortable in my body, with my thoughts, with my speech, with my feelings, with my emotions. I feel more comfortable with people around me, with people I don't know, with places I've never been in. It's genuinely the feeling of being at home with yourself and where you're at. And it doesn't matter if it's yoga, or it's Buddhist meditation, or it's a prayer in a church, or it's your art classes. Like, as long as you're feeling more centered and connected to yourself and everything else, it's working. And even if someone tells you, oh, that's not the right thing, what is the right thing? Only the right thing is something that feels right for you. So, what I would say is also understanding you don't have to live all your life. Sometimes you do. Maybe if that's your truth, pack, go, explore. But if you're not in that position, you can still have a spiritual life. And what spirituality for me, now this is mine, means is seeing deeper. So it's like you see me, this is my physical reality, and I enter the room and you're like, oh, wow, I love her vibe. Or maybe you're like, oh my God, I hate her vibe. This is seeing deeper. Even if I have a great hair, maybe you sense that there's something off with me. So this is like a simple example of what spirituality means to me, is just like going deeper than the physical. It's like not just seeing the tree, but maybe feeling the tree, not just, seeing the butterfly, but really feeling the butterfly. So it's like just going deeper with life. And you can do that in your office, A few days ago, I'll finish with this. This was great. I had because I am both in my yogic and meditation business side, but I also have another entrepreneurial side that I'm at, and I am also part of startup environment. And so I'm talking to these two founders, and he asked me, I don't get it, Anita. Like, how do you like, you have business on one side, but then you have spirituality on the other side. And then I asked him, what is spirituality for you? Because we definitely see differently. Because I don't anymore separate spirituality from business, because spirituality at the end of the day, again, means being present and in tune with what is happening in front and inside of you, regardless of if you're in your office on your chair or you're in Bali on your yoga mat. And he was like, oh, that makes sense. I was like, I know, it took me 10 years to find that out.
It is. It's like, oh, that's the best piece of advice, because for so long I was like, this is here, and I do my meditation, and then I do life. And I'm like, wait, what? No, like we're doing these things to integrate them with life, not separate practices. I don't
Yes.
go to yoga, be really zen, enjoy it, feel so much better after, and then come home and literally argue with everyone, like kick up a storm, beef. And I was just like, you know, it's great that we have these things. And I always say to people, I always say to like my yoga students and all, and they're like, oh, I wish I was better at yoga. Blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, there's no goal of yoga as a per se. I was like, but if there was one goal that I want you to achieve at the end of my class, I was like, if you can leave this class saying you feel a little bit better than you did at the start, then you won, for want of a better word. I was like, you won. And I was like, I love like I was listening to a couple of channel like books and stuff from Lee Harris and that, and he has like so many really good outlooks. And he sometimes they're so simple, and he's just like, do you feel better? Are you feeling better? Like when you're doing these things, are you able to like respond to things? Are you noticing that you're having better connections with people and all? He's like, it doesn't need to be so overcomplicated. Like if these things are helping you and your life feels better and your relationships are better and you have more of a connection and a meaning for life. He was like, it doesn't matter what book you read. He was like, read 100 books. Don't read any books. Listen to one podcast. It'll change it. Like it can be anything. I was like, for some people, they attend a workshop and bang, all of a sudden, like their life has changed. For other people, like I'm a bit like you, it was like a 10-year journey of like, we'll start off, I need to conquer my mindset. It's all about mindset. And then I was like, shit, I really need to start looking after my body, because I worked as a dancer and I literally didn't give a shit about it. So I'm going to learn about training and nutrition. And eventually then I was like, you know, you can nail your training and nutrition, you can master your mindset. I was like, but if you're disregarding the needs of your soul or that connection to something, a higher purpose, whatever you want to call it, I think you will always be left feeling like something is missing. And that was like the final little piece of it. I was like, we're still always learning. We still have bad days. We still have things where we're up the walls. I was like, but my ability to step back now and realize like, okay, like even if someone was screaming at me in the face now, I'm able to be a little bit like, I'm not hating them straight away. And that was huge. Little things like that when you notice it. And it's weird because you can't really put it into words, and it doesn't happen overnight. And because it's so gradual, one day you'll be in a situation where someone will literally be sticking their fingers up at you in traffic, and you'll just smile and be like, you know what, you're probably having a bad day, and if you need to take it out on me, that's up to you. But your anger is not my burden. And if I react to you, then I'm angry. And I was like, so it's like them small realizations that come over time. So what brings you the most joy right now, just to finish off?
Oh my God, small things, there is like this magic in really like being happy, like, oh my God, I'm having a coffee, my latte with oat milk. It's like, or it's like, let's play a song. I have a speaker. And then like, let's dance. And really, I am catching myself lately. And something that really brings me joy is like, I met someone a few months ago, and he just arrived to Belgrade, and we've been dating. We were in like together, and then online. I mean, online, we were like long distance for 2.5 months. He just arrived. There's so much joy there. And yesterday, because it was like, it's 40 degrees in Belgrade. It's like you don't want to go out. And I really didn't feel so good. So we stayed at home in our apartment for the whole day. And yesterday, at the end of the day, we were sitting and we were like, oh my God, we had literally a full on day. Like we were on a festival and there was like a schedule. Like we've done so many things at home, like from dancing class to some emotional release to cooking food to just listening to music and dancing to planning. Like we've done so much. And then we sat and we were like, life is really what you make it. You know, in some parallel universe, we would just stay whole day in bed, which I'm not saying is wrong. Sometimes that's all that you need. But I feel recently what's really bringing me joy is that, like, just like staying in touch with that childlike excitement, you know, about like, oh, we get to do this. Oh, and I think that's so beautiful when we let ourselves be joyous about small things, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been my love lately, our time together and music. I'm very happy. I am very happy that my knee is allowing me to dance again. So I've been like, and I really feel that like whenever I turn on the music, it just immediately affects your mood. And when you think about it, every single movie you watch has a background music to enhance your emotional response. And then I'm like, why wouldn't I play music in my movie, my life? And just allow that to, you know, help me like activate whatever I want to be feeling in the day. So I think music is really a medicine, and like using it intentionally can really support us to tap into specific vibe and vibration and then carry it through the day. So that's been bringing me so much joy. Music.
Oh, that was just, I love that. I love that. I actually, well, I could talk to you all day, but I am gonna have to finish it up there because unfortunately we both have, I have to go to work and I'm sure you have stuff to do. But where can people find you online, or where's the best place to get you?
Now the best place is to find me on my Instagram, which is I am Danica Milic, and very soon my website. I'm doing a photo shoot next week, and I'm preparing official website where I will have way more information, and I will share that in Instagram, which is also super exciting.
Okay, and I'll link everything below anyway, just so
Perfect.
they have it. And when you have the website, I can even pop that below. But thank you so much for today. Oh my god, that like literally the minute you came on, I was like, God, it's like a back. I was saying to Eamon when I was saying I was having you on as a guest, I was like, I'm not joking. I used to just be sitting there in the front and you'd be teaching us philosophy, and I was just staring. And like normally I can't, like, I think in this day and age, it's very hard to have such a good teacher that we were sitting there in like 2 hour blocks. We'd take a little break, but you were speaking for like 45 minutes an hour, and I was like so locked in. Like you could have told me that the sky was green and the grass is
Mm.
actually blue, and I would have been like, shit, yeah, you're right. But you're so passionate, and like even everyone needs to follow you on Instagram. Like I've been off the socials now actually for, well, by the time this is going out, I will be back on them to promote this, but I've been off them for a little while, and I've been really selective about the people that I'm watching. And I was like, I just love watching all your stuff. And I watch your videos and stuff, and it's like, oh, it's like a little piece of us here. So thank you so, so much for
So
today. And
it is.
hopefully I'll get to see you soon in real life.
Yes, please, and well, let's have more of this. Like, I would love to have one more catch up and hear you, what's happening with you.
Oh, we'll flip the script the other time. Okay, we'll do a part two and
Your
flip the
part
script.
is coming.
To be me. I love you so much, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Have
you,
the
Mary.
best day.
Have a beautiful
Bye.
day.
See, I told you that was awesome. And I think the best part about this as well is I always get asked by people, why yoga? Why do you think yoga is so important? And I'm always like, because it's so much more than just physical postures. And now, hopefully, you see where I'm coming from, because I could not have got a better person on to explain everything that we discussed there. Like, and I really hope you got something out of that podcast, because I just thought I could have asked her like about 10 more questions, but I tried to keep it within the hour. So, just before I let you go today, I actually wanted to invite you to listen to something else today. I know you're like, I just listened to you talk for an hour, Narissa. I'm kind of sick of hearing you talk. However, I have recently launched a private 6-part podcast, And this is actually because I'm launching a new program in September. Now, I haven't officially launched this program yet. I'm launching it next week. If you are listening to this at the end of July, I am launching this the beginning of August, okay? So you are getting first dibs. Do people still say that? First dibs at this if you want it, because I've had so many people get in touch with me over the summer about wanting to work together, and I've actually said no, I'm not taking on any clients until September because I'm actually launching a new program in September. Now, I wouldn't even do the program justice to try and sum it up here at the end of this podcast, so I'm actually just going to link below the private podcast that not only will you learn lots from, but by the end of the 6th episode, you will hear exactly what it entails. I'm only opening this up for 15 people in September. And I'm really, really passionate about this because it's something that has never been done in the fitness and wellness space. It's very hard to find everything that is involved in this program in one place. So I'm really, really psyched and really, really excited to launch it. And if you are listening to this before the beginning of August, you are getting kind of a little preview and you get the option to sign up before I actually officially launch it. As I said, I'm only opening this up to 15 people. So I will put the link below that you can sign up to the private podcast. You sign up with your email, and then from the back of that, you will get access to this podcast. It is free. It's just not hosted on my Or So She Says site because it's actually a private one. But yes, I'm very, very excited. And if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to me. I've actually been doing a bit of a social media detox the last few weeks, but I do actually have to break that detox and go back on now for August because I need to launch this program. So I will be back there. If you have any questions, you can ask me on Instagram. You may have also noticed that I changed my Instagram handle. So my new Instagram handle is actually called @radiantly empowered, which is ironically the name of this new program. Have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please don't forget to give it a rating. Make sure you're following the show, subscribe to the show, give us a like, give us a share, show us some love. And as always, I am sending you all the love, all of the light in the world, and I will chat to you soon.